Welcome back to In Pursuit 360. And today we're going to be talking about how long do you stay in law enforcement? When is it time to get out? What are some of the indicators that may say you've had enough? Well, we're going to get into it. So here we go. All right. So have you had enough of law enforcement, or when are you going to know that you've had enough? I actually have to give credit to a new YouTube channel that's out there. So I'm going to give a quick shout out. Gabriel Ferrer, Gabriel, and obviously I'm reading off something else. Ferrer, Ferrer. Go check him out. He's doing a fitness channel, and I guess his theme is, positivity and making sure that you're happy in life. How do you make the decisions to be happy in life? And he's a former law enforcement officer. Apparently he spent 6 years in law enforcement, was making some pretty good money. And he figured out that he wasn't happy in his choice of profession. So he made a conscious decision that it was time for him to get out after about 4 years. And he came up with an exit plan. It took him about 2 years to put it all together, and out he went. And he gives a pretty good explanation as to that on his channel. So maybe go over there and check him out and help support him like y'all have done me. Speaking of supporting me, actually crossed over and then exceeded the 50 subscriber mark. Woohoo! Does not sound like a really big deal to a lot of big YouTube channels, but I was at 32 forever, and all of a sudden y'all have decided, I guess, that maybe I have something to offer. So I really appreciate you signing up. Hope you stick with me. Make sure to mash that like button down there. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. And then give me some comments. What else do you want to hear about? So let's talk about this. How do you know when to get out? So Gabriel's example is after about 4 years, he just realized the job wasn't making him happy. He was not happy being out on the street every day dealing with what he had to deal with. He still has a great respect for law enforcement, but he realized it just wasn't his cup of tea. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have this vision and idea and thought of what something is going to be like, whether it's law enforcement, computer programming, auto mechanics, take your pick, any job, you get this idea of what you think it's going to be, and then when you get into it, it just changes. It's not what you thought, and all of a sudden it's just not making you happy, and something else strikes your fancy. Well, you need to decide, are you going to stick it out and bear with it, or are you going to find out what really makes you happy? And he pointed out, Gabriel did, that in the career of law enforcement, if it's something you're not into and you're not satisfied with and you're not really willing to give it 110% every day that you go to work, it's a good idea to get out anyway. As soon as you start getting lackadaisical, as soon as you start not paying attention, as soon as you start not caring, that's when mistakes happen. And mistakes can cost you your life. They can cost somebody else their life, your partner's life. If it's time to go, it's time to go. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in it. We had a young deputy in Stafford County that he made it all the way through the academy, got into field training. His third or fourth night out, they ended up with this really crazy woman, kicking and screaming and spitting and shouting, and they had to spray her with OC twice. And I mean, she was terrible. Scared him to death. We got a couple images of his face on the vehicle camera, and he was just scared to death, and he would not move. He just locked up tight, sitting in the passenger seat, and would not get out of the car while his field training officer took care of business. He walked in the next day, walked right into the sheriff's office with his badge and his gun. He goes, "This is not for me," and out the door he went. And we were all perfectly fine with that. Now, of course, being cops and a dark sense of humor, we laughed about the video. However, we all admired that he had the guts to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not cut out for this. This just is not for me. So hats off to Gabriel for recognizing the fact that he wasn't happy. This isn't what he really decided that he wanted to do. He may have been very good at it, I don't know. But he said that he felt it was important that he step aside and make way for those that would be happy in the career field. He was sitting there holding a pay slot, keeping somebody else from taking that job. So he thought it was important that he move out of the way and let somebody else come in there that would be satisfied doing the job and would do a better job than he might do These are his words, not mine. Um, and that way it would better serve the community too. So hats off to him. Things that you need to think about: are you not happy? If you're not happy, you're not going to like going to work. If you don't like going to work, you're going to have some problems out there. You're going to get lazy. You're going to fall into trouble. You're going to be tempted to do things that you're not supposed to do because you're bored. You're going to leave your partners hanging out to dry, and they're not going to like you anymore. I have seen plenty of cases of what we called RODs, right? RODS, retired on duty. And they were just out there to earn a paycheck and hopefully retire someday. And they would go hide off in a corner somewhere in a parking lot or behind a building and not answer calls, not make traffic stops, not do anything. They would only do something if they absolutely were told to do. And that was one of the biggest challenges as a supervisor there, was identifying those people and staying on top of them and not allowing them to be retired on duty, because it put a higher strain on everybody else. All the other guys that were out there working had to do extra work to cover for them. And the deputies knew who they were, and they didn't treat them the same. So, and then safety is another big deal. If you don't feel like you need to be out there and you're not paying attention, you can get yourself hurt, you're going to get your partner hurt, or a citizen is going to get hurt because you just don't want to be there. So be mindful going into this career, or any other career, but especially this one, because you're talking about lives could be at stake. Be careful going into law enforcement and recognizing when it's time to get out. I always said, if you feel like you know everything, it's time to go. Nothing stays the same in law enforcement. There's always something to learn. As soon as you think you know it all, you got to go, because you don't. Nobody knows everything. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've been working the street for 30 years. Any veteran that has made it 20, 25 years is going to tell you that no scenario ever plays out the same way twice. Just because you go to the same house every week for a domestic for 3 years straight, that first week in that fourth year is going to be completely different, because there are all kinds of variables. You can't really know and guess what's going to happen from day to day, second to second, minute to minute, whatever. Everything can change in a heartbeat. So you're always learning. You always have to figure out something. Laws are always changing. The way you apply laws is always changing. Case law is changing. All these things affect the way you do what you do every day legally to keep yourself out of trouble and allow you to protect society. So if you think you're not needing to learn anymore, get out, hang it up, turn in your badge, turn in your gun, go find something else to do. Nothing wrong with it, but you've got to know when the time is up. So my career, of course, ended short due to health issues. That was beyond my control, but looking back, I was done. I probably should have gotten out on my own before that happened. I was burnt out. I was completely burnt out. Too much whatever. Take your pick. I don't know. Beware of that 7-year itch. About 3 to 5 years in law enforcement. 3 to 5 years, you're going to start like feeling kind of burned out, especially if you jump into it with both feet, both hands. Going to court all the time, working all the overtime because it's there. Tons of overtime. You can work 7 days a week, probably almost 20 hours a day, and they'll be okay with it as long as you're safe. But you will get burnt out, so be careful with that. Good work-life balance. That's the key. Good work-life balance. And know when it's time to go. So, anyway, that's it. That's my preaching for today. Know when to get out. Recognize it. Act on it. Make a plan. Go watch Gabriel's video. It's a good one. He explains it very well, how he made his financial plan and everything so that he could follow his dreams and live a happy life. So I would recommend you do the same thing. If law enforcement is going to make you happy, then that's the route you need to go. I never felt like I went a day of work of my life wearing the badge and the gun. It was good. So anyway, again, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that little bell down there so you know when my next video is coming out. I am going to concentrate on coming out with at least 2 videos a week. Got some of you new subscribers out there. I really appreciate you. I want to make sure I take care of you. Leave a comment. Give me some ideas, some topics that you might like to hear about. In the meanwhile, until I hear from you, I'll just keep making some good content and let you know what it's like to be in law enforcement, let you know how to get into law enforcement, Maybe we'll go into some more interview questions and things like that. I actually have a specific request for ethics, so maybe I'll dive into that one next. So in the meanwhile, y'all be safe out there.